My lords, today I shall detail a report covering a mighty beast, an entity that we have designated Sky Dragon. It appears that this dragon has some sort of symbiotic, mutualistic relationship, at least for a time, with an aquatic empire. I shall detail a brief history of the empire in question and delve into all we know about this wonderful creature. Science Officer Bowen reports. During a routine survey of the Draco core system, an ocean world was identified as a likely target for colonization. As per standard Commonwealth doctrine, I took lead of the ground expedition to assess the planet's suitability for colonization. We had identified several key points of interest from orbit. Something or someone previously occupied this planet. There were signs of ruined agricultural and industrial districts, as well as several large decaying cities. We have already been fortunate enough to find several data centers. Some are intact, others destroyed. It is quite rare to find such a wealth of information about a planet's previous occupiers. We were very lucky, and translations have begun already. Despite all that, something far more exciting has been identified, and I may add, nothing of its like has ever been discovered before. On one of the many islands in the southern region, we have found what can only be described as a colossal skull, and colossal is not an appropriate word to describe what we have found. I am a scientist, not given to fanciful writing, but this is beyond anything I have ever witnessed. From snout to base, the skull measures approximately 6.8 kilometers. It is over 2 kilometers in height and towers into the sky like the atmosphere harvesters on the plains of Hyperion. The jawbones alone are several kilometers long, forming massive curving arches that stretch far into the horizon. The teeth are enormous. Each resembles towering spires, large enough for entire buildings to fit between them. This thing could snap our largest ships clean in two, even the mighty Emperor-class Titans. Its nasal openings are like colossal caves, wide enough for small villages to take shelter within. Its eye sockets, like enormous craters, easily spanning kilometers in width. These dark, hollow spaces give the impression of a creature that once possessed a keen and formidable gaze. I reiterate, nothing I have ever witnessed would have prepared me for this find. What's more, disconnected from the skull, but jutting out of the ocean, is what we believe to be a spinal column. Deep scans show the length of its body to be a little over 70 kilometers. This thing was huge. I wonder if more like it roam the galaxy still. While what has now turned into an archaeological dig, our xenolinguistic experts have begun translating the data packets found regarding the civilization who once lived here. It appears they had some sort of relationship with this beast. The civilization once called themselves the Ganashu. They documented several incidents regarding the dragon over the years. I shall include them in my report for you now. We have always known the dragon. It has graced the skies above our homeworld since before time began. Immemorable but rare interactions are scattered throughout our folklore. For a long time it was the story of conflict, as our early weaponry proved no match for the mighty beast. But then the stories tell of a visionary who against the odds managed to broker a peace between our empire and this grand dragon. In subsequent encounters, the dragon has proved a distant and enigmatic figure whose example has ever spurred on our efforts to reach the stars. However, now, the invention of rapid propulsion systems and the discovery of the hyperlane network have brought about a new and uneasy period of relations with the dragon. As we increasingly intrude upon areas it has roamed in solitude for aeons, it is for us to decide what our future holds. Will we study the dragon, and perhaps eventually learn to communicate with it? Or will we be driven to conflict, the confines of a single solar system simply too small to share with such a formidable creature? We have named this creature a Hrozgar of the Endless Flames. Our researchers observing the sky dragon have reported loud creaking noises seemingly coming from its internal organs. It has also been circling around the homeworld unusually often over the last few months, sometimes sweeping right past the upper reaches of the atmosphere before pulling away. Our working hypothesis is that the creature is hungry and wishes to feed, as it has previously done in the past. It is unclear why it hesitates. Perhaps it wishes to see how we react to it now we have joined it amongst the stars. I've ordered that some space be set aside in a secluded area and food be brought to it so it may feed in relative peace. Fortunately, the dragon appeared to realise our intentions and gracefully swooped down to the rest area that we had prepared. The large supply of food that we left behind probably helped. It must be said, the dragon laid into it with astounding ferocity. Our researchers continued to observe from a distance. After several years of gorging itself on our bountiful harvests, the now considerably larger sky dragon has taken flight. With a final roar of salute, it lifted off, leaving behind a large collection of scales, shed skin, and other byproducts of its presence. I've ordered that they be studied. Perhaps its scales will be valuable to our materials science researchers. Now that we've made some progress understanding xenobiology and exotic materials, our researchers have proposed that we send a science ship to take a closer look at the dragon. They are particularly interested in its scales, which are remarkably durable. Some would say even impenetrable. While we have acquired numerous naturally shed samples, our scientists remain baffled as to how they form. Using what they describe as a mildly intrusive probe, they believe that they can get under the dragon's protective layer directly and study its natural processes. I, however, am unsure. I do not want to anger this beast. Perhaps we should try something less intrusive. As such, I made clear to the scientists that they were authorized to scan the dragon from a close distance, but not to physically engage it in any way. Though the dragon watched our science vessel attentively, it did not react as we subjected it to several deep scans, the most thorough that we were capable of at our current level of technology. These scans provided us with fresh insights into its biological processes, though the secret behind its scaly hide remains elusive as ever. Although the researchers are forced to admit defeat on that matter, they assure us that they will nevertheless be able to put the knowledge that they have acquired to good use. Following our successes in establishing communications with a number of alien species, one of our leading linguists had brought forth a radical proposal. Though past efforts to communicate with the Sky Dragon have failed miserably, the lead scientist argues that now is the time to make another attempt. According to our earliest history, there was a fabled accord between a past leader and the dragon, after which all direct conflict ceased. Citing this as proof that an understanding on some level is possible, our lead scientist notes that the recent experiences with utterly alien lifeforms make us better equipped than ever before to understand the dragon. As teams of researchers and linguists trawl through records of known interactions with the dragon, they have prepared a few experiments to test its responses. They assure me that every move is planned with due diligence, and they will cease their activities at the slightest sign of displeasure from the dragon. These experiments have been going on for some weeks now. Our linguists remain stumped by the dragon's utterances, though they are hopeful a breakthrough is just around the corner. The difficulties are inherent in finding a common frame of reference between ourselves and this enormous space creature. This would be a cause for despair were it not for the behaviour of the dragon itself. It appears to be remarkably patient with our research ships intruding upon its space. Based on the rhythmic movements of its throat, it has been repeating the same set of glottal vibrations, rolls, or cries, almost as if it knows what we're doing and wish to help. Finally, we received report from our linguists on an astounding breakthrough. Despite never before being able to understand the dragon, they have transposed a spectral map of its fluctuating corporal energy emissions to an acoustic waveform. As they listened to the results, they could not believe the audio receivers. It was undeniable. The dragon was speaking our language, but in a different medium. Its roars were in fact only meant to draw our attention rather than a specific attempt at communication. Our linguists have replayed old recordings with this knowledge in mind. According to them, the dragon's past utterances have been disappointingly puerile, grumbling about food and the slow progress of the planet crawlers. Nevertheless, the creature now expresses surprise and pleasure that we are able to understand it. Indeed, it displays an energy not seen for many years. Apparently, it has a matter of great importance it wishes to speak with us about. We must convince it that we are ready. Several years have passed, and yet we have still not been able to convince the dragon that we are worthy of this knowledge. Today, we received a strongly worded rebuke from the dragon. It launched into a lengthy diatribe about the wisdoms it has accumulated over the eons and its observations regarding our attitude towards time and commitments. not to mention our still pitiful knowledge of the fundamentals of the universe. Apparently it considers us young and reckless, unworthy of the knowledge it has at present. Several decades have passed, and finally we have been contacted by the dragon once again. It said, "The time has come. Time passes, and with it my doubts. From small beginnings have I watched you, often despairingly at your frequent misgivings, and yet always roaring in delight at your successes. Now I find that you have grown, that your civilization has matured and is ready to be entrusted with the ultimate responsibility, parenthood. It is time for you to rededicate yourselves to rearing my children. To be perfectly candid, I have long awaited this day, longer than you can possibly imagine. When I set out from home, I was little more than a whelp. I journeyed far and wide before I came across a planet with the potential to produce a foster civilization that would one day be ready to raise my children, and so I waited. In my home galaxy, there are many of my kind. Each seek out a nascent civilization to raise their young, but I think I am the first to have come this far. Should you accept, I will pledge myself and my offspring to your cause, and we will aid you in battle." It would appear, my lords, that the Ganashu accepted this pact with the dragon. According to their records, several guardian dragon offspring were spawned. We have also found skeletal remains situated across the planet. Nevertheless, the question remains, what happened to them and the Sky Dragon? Science Officer Bowen has uncovered several more documents. This time they describe the fall of their civilization. It appears that they were utterly annihilated by a robotic exterminator, a failed defensive project from a neighbouring empire. The dragon could not save them. It was mortally wounded by neutron blasts and came to rest on the planet before eventually passing on. The robotic exterminators bombarded the planet from orbit and left it in the state we find it today, all these centuries later. A sad ending to this tale, my lords, but nevertheless the society research from this find is most welcome. I should note, we have also had a request from an empire called the Pashrati Absorbers, who have become aware of the find. They tell us they have the power to reanimate the beast. Extremely disturbing, but as ever I leave the decision of what to do next with you, my lords. Might I suggest these necroids need a good purging? Thanks for watching, folks. I hope you enjoyed. If you want to hear more Stellaris lore, please click the video on screen now.